and 2000.
Okay, good evening. We're up to Daf Zion, Itmar. Chaf Zion Amid Aleph, right at the top. Famous machlokes between Abaya and Rava. Famous machlokes between what? Abaya and Rava. Eid Zoimim. So let's say the following. Person testifies in Nisan. He testifies in Nisan, and then he testifies in Iyar, he testifies in Tammuz, he testifies in Av, he testifies throughout, right? And in September, people come along and say, you know that testimony you gave in Nisan? How could you have given it when you were with us in that day? So in other words, they're proven to be Eid Zoimim from Nisan. So do we say retroactively all Eidos they said during the months of Iyar, Tammuz, Av are pasul, or do we say that Mikan Lahaba only from Tishrei and onwards? That's the machlokes between Abaya and Rava. Eid Zoimim, Abaya Amar L'mafreya Hu Nifsal. Eid Zoimim, Abaya says retroactively it's what? It's pasul. Rashi, Kol Idya Shehiyad Minisin Ve'elach Psulin Shem Shehiyad Eidis Zu Russia. When he was testified by this testimony, he was a Russia retroactively Atashas Yadcha in Russia. Says the Gemara. Abaya says L'mafreya who's pasul. The Rava Amar Mikan Lahaba Hu Nifsal. Abaya Amar L'mafreya Hu Nifsal. L'mafreya Me'idna de Acid Russia. From the time he testified, he was a Russia. By Torah Ayman, the Torah says Al Tashis Yadcha in Russia. Al Tashis Russia 8. What the Torah says that the Lashon, exact Lashon, is Leisisa Shem Shav Al Tashis Yadcha in Russia Liyos 8 Chamas. So therefore, he partially can't be an 8. Since it's proven that he was in Russia, all the aids he said from Nisan and onwards is not good. Rav Amar Mikanu Lahaba Hu Nifsal. He's only pasul Mikan Lahaba. Because why? Eid Zoimim Chidishu. Eid Zoimim is the Chidish. My chos is the Samcha Ahani, Samach Ahani. Okay, guys, let's go through this. Two people come along and say, on Sunday, you stole in Hoboken. You stole in Hoboken on Sunday at this time. Okay, that's the edus that they say. Good. Two people come along and say, right? 1 second, you didn't steal. What's the din? That's edus hakchasha. One is not believed more than the other. This one said this one said none. It's clean slate, right? Clean slate. Wipe it out, right? Edus hakchasha. Two people come along and say, what? You stole in Hoboken. Two people come and say, how could you have gone ahead and said what? Imono Yusem, you with us, what in Ellenville. You with us in Ellenville. You couldn't have possibly gone ahead and said, okay, what do? We believe the ones who said you were with us in Ellenville. Why? In both cases, I gave you two scenarios. In the first one, it was a wash. In the second one, we're giving credence over the second one, over the first one. Says Rashi, Chidishu, third line down. That the first two become pasul because of the latter two said you with us. The machaz is the samcha ahani. Why are you samach on the second pair? Samach ahani be samach on the first pair. El gezeres hakosavi. It's a gezeres hakos in the Torah. Hilkach ein lecha be'ela mishas chidush ve'elech mishash shehuzam. So only from the time that they became Edi Hazama, only from that time and onwards. Right, but then we don't say retroactively. You don't say that retroactively. That's Rav. So says Abaye, you go after the time he was in Russia. Says Rav, it's a chiddush, and you don't learn from Eidim Zayimim. So true, the Hazama was in Nisan. We're gonna right. Nonetheless, we'll go whatever from Nisan to Tishrei. Everything they said will not be possible. That's the machlokes. Okay. Ikadi Rava Nami Kebayas really. Rava also holds like a baya. Ikadiami, Rava also holds like a baya. That what? That really retroactively, it should be good. The guy's a Russia, after all. He's a Russia. Umatam Kamar. What's the reason? Matam. What's the reason Rava says Mikan Lahaba? Mikan Mishum Pseidel Lakuchis. Because of the people who bought, based upon this Eidus, from Nisan to Tishrei. That these poor people, they went ahead, they spent money, they hired these Eidim, and they signed on a star. Now you're going to say all the contracts are batal. So because of this reason, say the Kuchas, the Rabbanan have the power to go ahead. What when it comes to Dini Mamnas, Hefker Best and Hefker, and therefore what? That's the reason. Okay, so the Gemara offers two reasons why what? Why Rava says Bikan Lahaba. The first one, it's a Chiddush, and the second one is Pseidel Kuchas. My Binayu, what's the difference? Now, we're not asking what's the difference between Abaye and Rava. That's obvious, the difference, right? That's obvious, the difference. One is Tishrei and one is in Nisan. My Binayu in Rava. In Rava's two Svaras, Al Chiddush or Al Swat, Al Pseidel Kuchas, My Binayu, it could be Nayu, Dasidu Beitrei Bechad. Okay, so let's say two Adim, Reuven and Shimon, they testified in a case you stole where what did I say before? Remember, not Hoboken, right? You stole in Hoboken. Good, it's good. It's good memory. You stole in Hoboken, right? Now, two people come along and they say on Reuven, how could you have testified? You with us in Ellenville. Two people come along in Shimon, two other people, and say, how can you testify? You with us in Young Israel Nulatz, right? You go ahead. How could you possibly have testified? In other words, and over here there's no chiddush. Why? Because it's 2 versus 1. If it's 2 versus 2, it's a chiddush. Why do you believe these two over those two? But now in this case, there's no chiddush, right? So in that case, we'd understand Rava why you would Rava. Then you should be what? It's not a chiddush anymore, and you should be puzzled from Nisan. Should be puzzled from Nisan. But if it's a tamas pseided l'kuchais, doesn't make a difference. That would be the difference in Rava's Farah. That's one difference. So again, what would the difference be? You have Dasidu Beitrei Bechad. You have two Adim against you have in other words, 2 sets of Adim against the initial 2. Reuven and Shimon, the initial 2 on the Gazelle and Hoboken. You have 2 against Reuven, 2 against Shimon. It's no longer a Chiddush, and therefore, like that, you go ahead and say that the apostle, any Adis that they went ahead and testified from Nisan to Tishrei would be puzzle. That's according to the first Pshat. But Pseidel Kuchas, no, because that it doesn't make a difference. That's one Pshat. Another Pshat Inami, it's not speaking about Edi Azama, but Paslinam because Nusa. You passel them, you're saying that what? You're Gazlanim. You're saying that what? You're not speaking of Azama. You testified on a side point. In other words, you testified that what? That you testify that Reuben and Shimon testify that Levi stole. Good. Comes along 2 people and say, Reuben and Shimon, you're Gazlanim. Notice, I'm not saying anything about Levi's testimony. Could be Levi did steal. But I'm testifying on you that you're a Gazlan. So there's no Kiddush now anymore because you can't say you're not a Gazlan. We don't believe you. Reuben and Shimon, right? You're Gazlanim. They can't say you're not Gazlanim. You have to wait and say you are Gazlanim. You can't say not. In that case, they would be puzzled from Nisan. Hashem can't say the Lekuches would only be Tishrei. Those would be 2 nafkaminas. V'amar Rav Yomi Amidifti, Ovid Rav Papi Uvda Kavase de Rava. Rav Papi, he halachically paskin like Rava in action, and he passeled Edom Zayim only Mikan Lahaba. Ma'abar Ravashi Yomai Hilchasa Kavase da Abaya. Ma'abar Ravashi says the halacha is Kavase like Abaya. The Hilchasa Kavase da Abaya Biyal Kigam. Again, there's 6 places in Shas where what we paskin like Abaya versus Rava. This is number 5. We're going to have 6 in a second. Okay, the Yud is Yir Shalemi Das. The Ayin is Edim Zayim Lemafreya. The Lamed is Lechi Abba Me'elav. Kuf is Kedushin Hamisurim Lebiyah. Gimel is Gili Das Beget. And Mem is Mumma, we're going to see right now. Okay? So again, this is one of the 6 places where we pass on like Abaya, Edim Zayim, Apostolat Lemafreya. The Apostle Lemafreya. Okay, in this new case. Mumur oichel nevelis l'te'avin. You have a rebellious fellow. A mumur is a rebellious fellow. He's eating nevela l'te'avin. Because of what? Because of taiva. He's not lahachis. He's not doing it to make Hashem angry. He's not doing it because he's angry at Hashem. Why? Because McDonald's is cheaper than Glattmart. Chinese food. You go to a Chinese food place. Today, my wife's away. I had Chinese food. Let me tell you, for an egg roll and a beef lo mein, it was $27, and there wasn't much to eat. Right? You go to the Chinese guy on every nothing.
$3.
So, $3, $3. So, and you get your shirt done too. Okay, this is all being recorded that we're racist. Okay. Anyway, as long as it's not anti-black, we're good. Anyway, so here you go. Yeah, but muma oicha l'teyavin. Why is he eating, guys? Because it's cheaper. In other words, this is a guy who loves money. We're going to passel him for Adis because of this. Since the reason he's eating it is because it's cheaper, meaning he has a chimut of money. He's going to passel l'dayanis and l'Adis. If he's a mumma that's eating only l'teyavin, Nasmer Chavzayin, about quarter, a little almost above the halfway point. So mumma oichel nevelis l'teyavin, divrei hakol pasel. However, lahachis, he's angry at God. So, I'm angry at God, so you tell me what to do, I'm not going to do it. So I'm going to go ahead. What? Lahachis, I'm going to go and eat. Abaya Amma Pasel. Abaya says it's Pasel for Dayanis and Adis. And Rava says Kasha. And Rava says, no, he's Kasha. You hear this? If he does it because he loves money, he's Pasel of Dayanis Adis. Says Rava. If he does it because he's angry at God, he's a Kasha. He could be a Dayan, he could be an Aid. Counterintuitive thinking. Anyway, Abaya Amma Pasel, why? Russia. Rachmana Amma, I'll touch this Russia aid. Guys, beautiful with the Rambam. Again, if you think about the Hagdara of the Rambam we gave the other day, right, fellas? Why did the Rambam say Tam 1? Guys, number 1, if you do an Avera that carries with it Malchus, right, you're a Russia. It has nothing to do with money, you're a Russia. Remember, it's Gezeres HaKosiv. A Russia can't testify. So whether you did it lahach the mumma to save l'teyavin to save a few bucks, or lahachas to anger Hashem, or lahachas you're in Russia. Guess what? I buy your apostle. What you did had nothing to do with Dinei Mamanis. This is where the Rambam got it from, guys. You're a Russia, your apostle. That's it. No ifs, ands, or buts. Says Rava. No. Rava says Rava Amakasha. Right, Russia the Chamas being. When we say Russia, it doesn't mean any Russia. It means a Russia because of a love of money. Russia lechamis, because you love money. You're going to chap money. So it comes out a huge machlokes. Again, here, Nachamal guys. If you are a mumma l'teyavin, everyone holds your pasal. Why? Because it has to do with money. What's the reason you're eating at McDonald's? Because it's a lot cheaper than kosher delight. I'm dating myself, right? So it's a lot cheaper than kosher delight. When we say kosher delight, everyone's eyes go with this nostalgic look, like, oh, I wish it was still that. Anyway.
What was its original name?
Kosher King. Oh my gosh. Kosher King.
Kosher Brooklyn College.
No, Surf Avenue. Surf Avenue.
The first one was Brooklyn College.
Then they became Kosher Country. They went all. Oh, okay. Anyway, they have a lachalapakas. Good.
Also Yalkagan.
What? Yalkagan. Anyway, so the first like that. If a person's a mumala teyavin, everyone holds your pasal le'edis and dayanis. Again, it's synonymous. What about mumala hachas? You're eating it. Why? Because why? You're angry at Hashem. You want to. Says buy a machdashai. So it doesn't make a difference. You're Russia and you're gone. Says Rabbi Chiddush Nifla. Guess what? You're still in. Why? Because that you did in Aveira, you're a Russia, but you're not a Russia l'chamas. You're not a Russia in the chim mammon, and therefore you be pasal kasha or le'edis. That's the. Now again, this is a second machlokes that we have between Rava and Abaya. That this is the mem in Yal Kigam. This is the mem in Yal Kigam. You're getting a third of the 6. Says the Gemara. Meisvei, it says Al Tassis Rasha Aid. Now the pasuk literally says Al Tassis Yotcha in Rasha Liyas Aid Chamas, and we dashing ad Al Tassis Rasha Aid, Al Tassis Chamas Aid. That's paraphrasing. Chamas. Elu Gazlanim Umoilim B'Shvuas. My love Echad Shvuas Shav ve'Echad Shvuas Mamin, and it's a kasha on Rava, because you're saying that what a shvuah shav, fellas, which has nothing to do with human money, and nonetheless you're considered a Russia. and therefore you can't be an aid. So it's Kasha and Rava. You, Rava, said if it's not money oriented, if it's not connected to money, in fact, you're not puzzle. L'chayra over here, we're saying shvur shav. Shvur shav is you swear in a pillow of stone that it's stone. The garnish. Loi. Idi shvuas mamin. Umay shvuas alma. When it says shvuas, it means in general the genre of shvuas. But enochinami, to be a roshal in chamas, to be pasal edis, it has to be what? Connected to money. Mesivei, another kasha, al tashish rasha aid, al tashish chamas aid, elu gazlonim umalve ribis. Right. So now, is gazlonim money oriented? Absolutely. Is malve baribis money oriented? Ain't money oriented? Go gedola mizu. That's mamish right up there. Good. Who is this akasha on, guys? Abaya. Abaya says, what? Anything. Why is it only limited to money activity? Anything would go ahead and possibly. But over here, clearly, we have a brisa saying what? Dafka money. Says what? Tiyufta dabaya tiyufta. So we're slugging up Abaya, right? We're slugging up Abaya. L'chayra, Abaya is wrong. It has to be, in order to be pasuk for Edus Dayanis, it has to be a rasha of chamas that have to do with money. Nema, let us say, kitanoi. Let's say it's a machloikis tanoim. Let's say this machloikis between Abaya and Rava is a machloikis tanoim. Eid zoimim pasul l'chalatar kula div Reb Meir. Eid zoimim. If you find an aid to be Muslim, he gets imano yisem, and you have gets in the parsha of Kachas Zamam. He is pasul l'chalatar. Obviously, guys, this would be in conjunction with Abaya. Right? He's out totally. Abaya says also he's out totally. So Abaya apparently would hold like Reb Meir. Rabbi Yossi Omer, b'medavar mamurim, is he out of the ballpark totally? Shechuzim b'dinei nefashis. That's if what? He's Muslim l'dinei nefashis. Aval chuzim b'dinei mamanis, kasha l'dinei nefashis. But if he's Muslim for dinei mamanis, he's kasha l'dinei nefashis. Now let's build up two things. Dinei Mamanis is Ra l'Shemayim and Ra l'Brios. Dinei Mamanis, A, Hashem doesn't want you to do it, and B, you're causing somebody a monetary loss. So it's both Ra l'Shemayim, Ra l'Brios. Dinei Nefashos is also Ra l'Shemayim and Ra l'Brios. So we're establishing that fact. Now, according to Rav Yossi, says Rav Yossi, if I go ahead and I'm Muslim for dinei nefashis, right? I'm still in the ballpark. If I'm Muslim nefashis, I'm out totally. If I'm Muslim limamin, I could still be in the ballpark. What for dinei nefashis? Nema Abaya kireb Meir, for Rava kireb Yossi. Abaya kireb Meir. Abaya who says if you're a mumma. You're a mumma lahachis. You're out completely with holek remeya. That would hold damrinon mikula lechumra. If you did a kula dika thing, then you're going to be over what on a chumra dika thing. A kula dika thing, eating what nevela is be'ed l'shemayim, but it's not be'ed l'briyos. A mumma, guys. If you eat nevela, who's being affected? Just you, right? Just you. So Abaya, what does Abaya say? If I do a kula dika thing, something that's just bad for me, I'm out for everything. Certainly, if I go ahead and testify for dinei mamanis, which is what also again bad for both, certainly I'm going to be out loud for bad both, right? That's the sushtel. Again, one more time. Loid Abaya, a mumma eating meat is only bad for himself. Between him and God, it's not affecting anybody else. Yet Abaya says he's out l'kol tarakula. Certainly, if he would go ahead and be mezim le'inyan dinei maminis, which is again bad for both him and the person he wanted to mess up, and he didn't that one, he's out totally. So Abaya would be in cahoots with Reb Meir. It makes sense like Reb Meir, totally. You good, Doc? Good. For Rava the Amar Reb Yossi the Amar mechumra lekula amrinon mechumra. If I go ahead and I say for dinei nefashos, then I'm out for dinei mamanis. But mekula lechumra, meaning from nevela to what? To kolatar kula, I'm not. So l'chayra, we haven't matched up. Abaya would hold like Reb Meir, and Rava would hold like Reb Yossi. Says them loy. So Mikul Lechem loy. Amrina. Excuse me. Let me read it correctly again. V'Rava Dama Reb Yossi. Dama Mechum Lechem Amrina. Mikul Lechem loy Amrina. Says them loy. Now again, I always point this out. When you never want to have two Amoraim coming out against another Tana. You always want them to match up. So they'll always say no. Now, the first one that can't come out, that's what they're going to say. So no, there's no way Abaya can come out according to Rabbi Yossi, guys. There's no way. And always point out the first one. I always point this out to you. I did it recently. We just had it. So now, Aliba the Rabbi Yossi, Loit Rabbi Yossi. There's no way for Abaya to come out to Rabbi Yossi. Kuliyamale pligi. That what? That it's machloikis. In other words, Reb Meir, who's Abaya, who says you're going to say lakula when it's ralish just the shemayim and not to brios, but you did say that he's no way he's going to come out according to Reb Yossi, who says in a case where it's ralish shemayim brios lakula chumra. Ki pligi aliba de Reb Meir. In other words, Abaya is of course like Reb Meir, but I can even hold Rava can come out like Reb Meir. Abaya who says that by Mumma lahachis is zicha would hold like Reb Meir, that if you're Muslim in your dinei maminis, your dinei nefashos, your dinei maminis, you're out completely. Abai Reb Meir, v'Rava ad kan like Reb Meir hasam, ela gabe eid zoymam, the mammon, the rola shemayim, v'rola brios. You know why Reb Meir says if you're Muslim l'mammon, you're Muslim l'nefashos, because both are what? Bad for you, bad for in your relationship with God, and also bad for people, the one you testified against. Aval hacha, where you ate nevela, the rala shemayim, but it's only bad between you and shemayim. The ain rala brias, no one else is affected what by you. No one's affected by you eating trephis, loy, and I'd say not. So again, we have two machlokes over here. Machlokes Abaya v'Rava, and machlokes Reb Meir Reb Yossi. Okay, what's the machlokes? Abaya says that you eat muma lahachis. If you eat to anger God, you eat McDonald's, you can't testify in the Kol Tarakula. Says Rava, you can. Says Rava, you can. Why Rava says you can? Because whatever you're doing has nothing to do with saving money. The reason you're doing it is you're angry at Hashem. In other words, you would eat it if it was the most expensive piece of meat, expensive piece of tarfis. You know, you go to the most fanciest restaurant in the world, you'd still eat it. Why? Because you're eating it to anger God. So it has nothing to do with money. Well, it has nothing to do with money. Says Abaya, you're a Rasha, I don't care. The corollary says Reb Meir, if you're Muslim l'dinei mamonos, you're also l'dinei nefashos. Says Rava, Abaya, that's the same thing. Says Rava, mumulahachis, no, mumulahachis, even though you ate that, you did a terrible thing. When it comes to dinei mamonos, you're still kosher aid. Rabbi Yossi seems to say the same thing. If you're mumul dinei mamonos, you're not. If you're dinei mamonos, you're still kosher for dinei nefashos. You're still in the ballpark. So it says the Gemara. Let's say they match up. Reb Meir, Abai Reb Meir, Rava Reb Yossi. Reb Meir doesn't match up. Reb Meir, you're right. Zicha Yagis on Reb Yossi. He only can hold like Abai can only hold like Reb Meir. However, Rava can hold like what? Like Rava can hold like Reb Meir. Rava can hold like Reb Meir. Ad kan like Reb Meir Hasam over there, because in both cases, right, it's you're Rala Shemayim, Rala Brios. What are you doing? You're being mazim. You're being mazim. So what's the case? If you're killing somebody through your hazama, if you're causing a person monetary loss through hazama, it's Rala Shemayim and it's Rala Brios. Masha'en came. Reb Meir would agree, perhaps, that if you go ahead and eat from a fasty trefa restaurant, he might be minded that what you kashal edis because he had nothing to do with money. Your avera. So it says Rava. I can even agree with Abaya. Excuse me, with the Rabbi Yossi. Very good. Okay, now what's the halacha by mumul hachis? What's the halacha? The hilchas like Abasi Abaya. The halacha is like Abaya. 1 second. Right? We slugged up Abaya. Guys, what did we say? Malva baribis. Guys, go up a few lines. Elu got Mesave. Al Tashis Rasha aid. Al Tashis Chamas aid. Elu Gazlanu Malva baribis. Tiyufta the Abaya Tiyufta. So how can you tell me Allah is like Abaya if we knock them out? And for the Gemara, he Rabbi Yossi, he. You're right. We said Rabbi doesn't know like Rabbi Yossi. You know who that Bryce is according to? That says Dafka Malva Beribis and Dafka Gazlanim, which is money oriented. That's Rabbi Yossi. That's Rabbi Yossi. Okay, Fred the Gemara, Havinami Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Meir Rabbi Yossi, Allah Rabbi Yossi. So good. It's a very geschmack. So what are you telling me? You slugged up a buyer from a brisa, and what are you telling me? That's schwer. The halacha is like a buyer because that brisa goes to Rabbi Yossi. But 1 second, the halacha is like Rabbi Yossi. You still didn't gain anything by proving Rabbi Yossi is the time of that brisa, and a buyer goes according to him. You still it doesn't go like him. You still haven't proven anything. Good. So the rest of the Omid is going to be, guys, to prove we have a Stam Mishnah. Rebbe was Sasam and Mishnah like Reb Meir. Since Rebbe was Sasam and Mishnah like Reb Meir, the halacha is like Reb Meir. Since the halacha is like Reb Meir, that Stam Azoy, a person who does an Aveira that has nothing to do with money-oriented, is puzzle, that's a Baya. So a Baya is going to go like Reb Meir because we're going to prove in this case the halacha is not like Reb Yossi, this case the halacha is like Reb Meir. We're just now going to search for that Mishnah. We're going to search for that Mishnah, which Mishnah tells us that Rebbe Paskin like Reb Meir, that a mumma, that if a person does an Aveira that has nothing to do with money, nonetheless he'll be puzzle. We're going to find out. Okay, that's our job now. Shiny Hassam Desasam Tana Reb Meir. Now let's look for that. Who is that Tana? The Hechi Sasna Kihada de Barchama. The case of Barchama. Why? The Barchama Katal Nafsha. Barchama killed somebody. Amalei Reish Galusa LeRav Abba Bar Yaakov. Said the Reish Galusa to Rav Abba Bar Yaakov, Poik Ayimba, go check it out exactly what happened with Barchama. Ivadai Katal, if he killed somebody, L'chayuhu le'eineha, poke out his eyes. Rashi points out, at this point in time, you weren't able to kill, capital punishment was out, but you could kanas, and the kanas for this guy killing is going to poke out his eyes. Needless to say, Barchama is in a bit of a pickle. Okay? Asu Trey Sadi came along to Adis, Asidu Beidevade Kotel. Two Adis came along and said Barchama killed, and he's like Gahak Tzaris. Azal Ihu came along Barchama, I see Trey Sadi, he brought two Adim, Asidu Bey Bechad Mehanach. The two of them testified against one. Chadam Kamoy Didi Gonav Kaba de Chushla. In front of me, you stole shelled barley, meaning, how could you be an aid after all you're a ganef? The Chadam one says, Kamoy Didi Gonav Kata de Burcha. You went ahead and you stole the handle of a spear. So what is basically he saying? He's saying that what? That these guys are what? They're guys Lanim. So now, these guys Lanim, and therefore they're puzzle for Adis. So, Amalei, my daitcha. So Rav Abba Yaakov said to Barchama, my daitcha ki Reb Meir, but that since these people are choshev on money, they're also choshev on nefashos. Guys, again, what did Rabbi Yossi say? Rabbi Yossi said, if you were Muslim, le'inyan dinei maminis, you're still in the ballpark for dinei nefashos. Rabbi Meir said, if you're out of the ballpark dinei maminis, you're out of the ballpark of dinei nefashos. Barcham is proving that these two Eidim are out of the ballpark in dinei maminis. They stole. So now the judge in this case, Rav Acha Bar Yaakov, is saying, Rav Abba Bar Yaakov saying, you think, what did you gain, Barchama? That what you pass like Reb Meir? We don't pass like Reb Meir. We pass like Reb Yossi. That even though they're ganavim, they're still in the ballpark to kill you. Even though they're ganavim, they're still in the ballpark to kill you. So Amalei said Rav Acha Bar Yaakov, my daitcha, Reb Meir, Reb Yossi, Allah Reb Yossi, Reb Meir and Reb Yossi, Allah Reb Yossi, Reb Yossi Amar, and Reb Yossi is of the opinion, Huzim b'dinei mamanis, kasher l'dinei nefashis. If you amaze him in your dinei mamanis, you kasher l'dinei nefashis. So these two people, even one guy stole a shelled barley, and one person stole a spear handle. Guess what? When it comes to killing you, they're right there. Only Rapapi. Now Rapapi is coming to save Barchama's life. Amalei Rapapi. Why? Because Rapapi is going to say that Allah is like Reb Meir. And once the Allah is like Reb Meir, once you're out of the ballpark of mamanis, you're out of the ballpark in the fascists. So Amalei Rapapi. Hani mili heichad le'sasam l'tanak Reb Meir. Hacha sasam l'tanak Reb Meir. Memai. From where? Where exactly we have a stam mishnah that if you puzzle for dinei maminis, you puzzle for dinei nefashas. Elaim imhadet nan a mishnah nida kol roi lodun dinei nefashas roi lodun dinei maminis. Anyone who can judge dinei nefashas can judge dinei maminis. Money. Who's that? Elam Rabbi Yossi. That's not true. It's not true. Rabbi Yossi is of the opinion of Ika Eid Zomim the Mamin. The Kashla Dinei Nefashos, the Pasla Dinei Maminis. No, you're telling me it's synonymous, guys. That if you can't judge Dinei Nefashos, you can't judge Dinei Maminis. It's not true. Because we have Rabbi Yossi saying you can't judge Dinei Maminis, but you could judge Dinei Nefashos. So it can't be Rabbi Yossi. So who must it be? It must be his Bar Plukta. Elulav Reb Meir, guys. And therefore what? So you have a stam mishnah like Reb Meir that once you're out of the ballpark l'inyan dinei maminis, you're out of the ballpark l'inyan dinei nefashis. Says why no? Dilma psula yuchsin koi. Maybe it's speaking about a dayan's need to be a miyuchas. A dayan has to be a miyuchas. In other words, he can't come from questionable lineage. A mamzer can't be a tzluki. None of these people can. Asar yuchsin. They cannot be. They can't be. So this Mishnah there in Nida is telling us B'psul Yuchsin. Let's see Rashi for a second. First in line. B'psul Yuchsin, not when dinei mamanis. When it comes to judging capital punishment, you need a bezdim yuchasim. Kidatani Rabbi Yosef, we're going to see. Kashem shebezdim inukim b'tzedek, just like they're clean, squeaky clean in Sitkus. Shenemar b'tzedek tishbat, when it comes to judging. Kach bezdim inukim mikol mum. They can't have any skeletons in the closet. Shenemar kul chiyafa rayasi umum mein bach. So therefore, maybe it's speaking over here le'inyan yuchsin, that it says anyone is right to judge dinei nefashos because he's a miyuchis can judge dinei mamanis, but it has nothing to do with what, whether they found zoimim or different things. So it has nothing to do with the machloikas between Rabbi Yossi and Reb Meir. So Mamela, this can't be a raya that the halacha is like Reb Meir. Says the Gemara, di loite mahachi. If you don't say that's the pshat in this Mishnah, Tani Sefer of that Mishnah, yesh roi lodin dinei mamanis. There are those who can judge dinei mamanis. The aim roi lodin dinei nefashos, but they can't judge dinei nefashos. Am I ain't a roi? Why aren't they roi to judge dinei mamanis? Right? There must be the itzim b'dinei nefashos. Says the Gemara, roi lodin dinei mamanis, v'dibya kol pasalu. Anyone who says that you were mason in dinei nefashos, right? Therefore, everyone would hold you can't judge dinei mamanis. We have a brisa. The end of the brisa says you could judge mamanis, but you can't do nefashos. If you were mason in nefashos, even Rabbi Yosef might be out of the ballpark. Again, we have someone who could judge mamanis, but he can't judge nefashos. If you're going to tell me that it had to do with you were found to be zomim, if you were found to be zomim in nefashos, you can't judge mamanis. We need someone, guys. We need someone who can't judge nefashos, but could judge mamanis. So watch. If you're out in nefashos because of azama, you're out in mammon. We need a guy out over here and in over there. You know what the answer is? Yuchsin. He's out of nefashos because of yuchsin. He's in because when you don't have to be a meyuchis to judge dinei mamanis. So you see that this Mishnah can't be the Mishnah to prove Ramei Shita. This can't be the Mishnah because we're not speaking about a psul at all of what? Of hazama, of a question of rishus. We're speaking about a person who, unfortunately, could be the God Lador. He could be, well, guess what? But if he comes from, he's a mamza. Gadol mamza talmud chacham mekayin gadol lama aretz. But guess what? You can be the God Lador. You can't be a dayan. You can't be a dayan. Azayah does. You can't be the dayan. So that's what it's speaking about. Same, synonymous. Synonymous, same thing. Same thing. Says the Gemara. Ella, the psul. This is speaking by the Yanis psul yuchsin over here. To be an aid, you can not have to be yuchis. Of Avi, if a mamza sees someone killed, he can testify. This is by Yanis. Ella psul yuchsin koi hachnaim psul yuchsin koi. So just like the Sefer was speaking about psul yuchsin, so to the ratio. Elahacha kasasim latana. Detnan. This is the Mishnah in Rosh Hashanah. Elu heina psulim. It sounds like our Mishnah, but you're going to see it's not the same. Hamasachik b'kovya, umalva beribis, mafricha yoinim, seichre shviyas. Again, these are people do business. Va'avodim and avodim. All these would be psul. Zeh klal kol edis she'ena isha kasherela. Any edis that a woman can't testify, af hein en kasherela. Now money. Ilem Reb Yossi v'oika edis b'dinei nefashos. Sheina ishik sheirula, behin kasherula, right? These are all guys, chayish for dine mamanais. They would be in the ballpark for dine nefashais. Women are not at all. Again, what's our rule of thumb? These people are puzzle in the arena where women are puzzle. But 1 second, if it's speaking like Rabbi Yossi, women are puzzle completely, and these people would be believed in the dine nefashais. Correct? That's Rabbi Yossi's din. Elalav must be Rabbi Meir, who says if they're puzzle for mamonis, they're puzzle for nefashais. So Rabbi Meir, okay? So guess what? You got to win. You got to win, guys. Look at this Mishnah. What is the Mishnah saying? The Mishnah says any Adis or Dayonis, that Adis in this case, that women are out, these are out. Now, I'll find you a case that women are out and these are in. So therefore, that Tana can't be the Tana of the Mishnah. Who is that? Rabbi Yossi. Says Rabbi Yossi, they could be out in Dine Maminis, but in Dine Nefashais. What does Rabbi Meir hold? Once you're out in the Fashais, the Maminis, you're out in the Fashais. So this Mishnah is Rabbi Meir. So who is convinced, Rav Acha bar Yaakov, that these two people who shelled barley or a stick that's attached to a spear are out of the ballpark? It's Rapapi. So what happened? Kom bar Chama got up, Nashke Akare, he kissed Rapapi on his legs, the Kibul Akarge, the Kulashanya, he said he's going to pay his taxes for the rest of his life. He said he's going to pay his taxes the rest of his life. Which leads to a big question. What about Sheikhad? There are a few ways out. Rapapi wasn't judging this case. Rapapi wasn't judging this case, right? Another way out, a Talmid Chacham is putta from the tax anyway, so he's not gaining anything. So there are a few ways out from different sources. Okay, Yetzim Vereno, guys, you have the ayin in the Al Kagam and the mem in the Al Kagam. It is like a vaya, and Mumala Hakis is pasal Edis Afilu Ladine Nefashos. Even though he had nothing to do with Mamonis, right? He's pasal Ladine Nefashos. Okay, the next Mishnah it leads into the next Suya tomorrow. So we'll go to the Mishnah. I don't want to leave it over just because it's a lot. Basically, it's back to Yavamis, guys. It's back to Yavamis. I don't want anyone leaving the screen. Please stay in place. It's a little bit back to Yavamis. As a matter of fact, I'm going to look in the book if he brings down the cases. I have a chart over here. For tomorrow, but in case he brings it down in the book, I'll check that out. Okay. So these are the kroivim that are puzzle the Edis. These are the kroivim that are puzzle the Edis and for Dayanis. Okay? So the Eluhena kroivim. Achiv, your brother. Achi Aviv, the brother of your father, your uncle. V'achi Imo, the brother of your mother, your uncle, your maternal uncle. Ubal Achaisai, and your brother-in-law, right? Ubal Achais Aviv, your aunt who married your father's brother. Ubal Achais Imai, and your aunt and your husband, your uncle who married your father, the sister of your father. Ubal Achais Imai, and the husband of your mother's sister, your maternal uncle. Basically, your uncle's next generation above. That generation and one above is Ubal Imai, and this is your stepfather, right? Ubal Imai, the Baal of your the Chamav, his father-in-law, the Gisai. Who is Gisai? Gisai is Uncle Lenny. Rashi, Gisai, Baal Achais Ishtai. It's the husband of his wife's sister. It's the husband of his wife's sister. So you're my Gisai, right? So this is the brother-in-law, and I'm your Gisai. This is the brother-in-law. This is Baal Achais Ishtai. This would be Kroivim that are Pasal Edis or the Dayanis. Hain, they are Pasal. Ubenehem, their sons are Pasal. The Chasaneim, and their son-in-laws are Pasal. The Chorgoi, and a stepson, Levadai. Now the stepson Levadai, only him, not the stepson son, not the stepson son-in-law, right? It starts by him. There's a long Rashi over here. If you said you said stepson already. You said Baal Ishtai. You said Baal Imai. I'm Rabbi Yossi. Zoom Mishnah Rabbi Akiva. This Mishnah that we just mentioned is the teachings of Rabbi Akiva. Al Mishnah Rishayna, the previous Mishnah, Dai, uncle, then Dai, cousin, the Chalaroy Liyarshay. In other words, guys, what do you remember from your Yesh Neichlan days? That you wish goes after the father's side. So anything that had to do with the mother's side, right, would be out. Many of the Kroivim that had to do with the mother's side, that Roy Liyarshay would be out, meaning they would be able to testify, or you'd be able to testify against them. Right? And anyone who's Karev Ba'isei Shah, either at the time of witnessing or the time of testimony. If let's say it was a Karev and then it was distant, it ended, in other words, whatever, a divorce or a death, how is that kasha? He's still going to be kasha. If what? If his daughter dies and there are children, how is that Karev? Then the son-in-law would still be what? Karev. Ha'oiv v'asaynei, right? An oiv v'asaynei a kroivit, apostle Adis. Ha'oiv zeh shvina, who's an oiv? That's a person who'll be a shvina, he'd be take care of you by the wedding. And saynei is kolshu, listen to this. You want to know what a saynei is, guys? Kolshu like divrei imay shleisha yamim be'eva. You don't speak to a guy 3 days because you hate him. Then you'd be apostle Adis. Amalei. So they told Rav Yehuda, like, Neptur Yisrael al Kach. We're not Chosh Yisrael for that. Okay, is that basically, I went through the Mishnah quickly because the Gemara is going to discuss many of it. Okay, let's just go to the piece of Gemara. How do you know a Karev is Pasul? Where do you know that from? Where is your source that a Karev is Pasul? So listen to this Mishnah. Listen to this pasuk. It says, Lo yumsu avos albanim, ubanim lo yumsu al avos. That's what it says. A father won't die because of a child, and a child won't die because of a father. Ish becheta you must say. A man in his chait, you must say he will die. Now, once you said a man will die in his chait, you don't have to tell me then you won't die because of a father. We'll get to that. I'm reading it. What if you're telling me a person dies based upon his own actions? Why do you have to tell me la yumsa of albanim? That seems to be extraneous. Menani mili tarabana la yumsu avis albanim. That fathers don't die because of the sins of the sons. Or sons don't die because of the oven of the father. The pasuk says, "Ish becheta yumasu." A person in his state will die. In other words, it's based upon your own merit or the demerit in this case, right? It's based upon that. It's not based upon the other actions. So what's the lo yumsu? Ella, what's the drasha? Lo yumsu avos abanim be'edis banim. Ubanim lo yumsu alavais be'edis avais. So this with the Torah Shalapez, dashling doesn't mean you won't die. If you won't die is the testimony. They can't testify against you. This is the source for a relative being unable to testify. Lo yumsu avos abanim be'edis banim. Ubanim ba'avan. So Rabbi is asking by looking at me. He remembers the oven of albanim. So l'chayra, but you're telling me that you tell me no. Says no. Over there is where the son acts like the father. Then he'll be punished if he does the same disactions, same averis. Tanya. It's a pasuk in the Teichafa. If they follow along with the father. An ish becheta will die. Right? Okay, so therefore it has to be. So you see that what you would be punished for your brother. You're not being punished from the action of your brother. You're being punished what? Because you could have done something. Okay, so we're concluding. We know that they're Kroivim that are Asa. We have Machlekes in the Mishnah what this Kroivim are between the Mishnah Rishona and the Mishnah Shniya, and we're bringing a source for Kroivim, at least father and son. Lo yumsu avis albanim, lo avanim avos.